I'll just come right out and say it. You're cheating, aren't you? I finally blurted it out. Ben's eyes widened in shock, but after thinking for a moment while massaging his brow, he smirked. Caught me, huh? Well, yeah, I've been pretty free with my affections. Without any remorse, Ben continued. Oh, I've got something to tell you, too. He strode up to me, a sleazy grin on his face. Take good care of the sick kid, will ya? Huh? He's taken a liking to you, so make him happy. That's the least you can do. In exchange, I'll focus on my new flame. If Sally and I have a son, he'll eventually be the CEO. Essentially, Ben planned to have a child with Sally, the CEO's daughter. Sure, that would secure a safe future, considering the influence of the family. Such a pathetic, dependent strategy. Just then, the door slammed open, and in came Tom. Moving skillfully in his wheelchair, Tom approached Ben. Then, incredibly, he stood up and shouted. Mom, let's start our counterattack. I'm Sophia, 30 years old. Becoming a housewife after marriage, I'm now troubled about my child. Though I say my child, Tom is not blood-related. He's Ben's son from a previous marriage. He's a quiet kid. That's what Ben said when he brought Tom the day after our marriage. I knew Ben was divorced, but I had no idea he had a child, let alone one he was raising. Quiet or not? Confused, I didn't know how to react, but Ben nonchalantly replied. No, really, he's super quiet. He's only 3 but not much trouble. Looking at the 3-year-old Tom, he gazed back at me with curious eyes. His innocent face stirred mixed feelings in me. His name is Tom. Say hi to your new mom, Tom. Urged by Ben, Tom shyly looked at me. Mom. Well, it's a surprise, but that's how it is. I'm easily swayed, embarrassingly so. I could have objected if Tom wasn't there. But faced with his wide, curious eyes, I couldn't voice a single complaint to Ben. And so, I became a mother to a 3-year-old upon marriage. I wanted kids eventually, but never imagined skipping straight to motherhood. As Ben said, Tom was a low-maintenance child for a 3-year-old. He ate what was given and never threw tantrums. He was, in a word, a good kid. He really is quiet. Right? Well, I don't know much about it. Huh? According to Ben, his parents raised Tom before we got married. I couldn't possibly do childcare with my busy job. Is that so? But now, with you, Sophia, being unemployed, it's reassuring. Childcare was left to the grandparents, with Ben only seeing Tom on weekends. This earned me a lot of gratitude from my in-laws. We're old, you know. He's not unlovable, but it's been tough. Having Tom around sure messes with plans, huh? Plans? You know, kids get sick all the time, right? And when they make a fuss, it's a real headache. Gotta be mindful of the people around us. My in-laws nodded in agreement, looking like they've been through it all. Tom, sitting next to me, watched them expressionlessly. Apart from his illness, he didn't seem like the type to make a fuss. I was naive to think so. At first, he was probably wary of me, the new person in his life. That's why he was so well behaved. No, don't do that. It's dangerous. Yay! Cheese! 3-year-olds are more active than I thought. He'd bring a step stool to rummage through the fridge, fiddle with the stove knobs, and play in the bathtub with leftover water splashing everywhere. Today, he drew on the walls with a permanent marker. I reported this to Ben, exhausted, when he got home from work. He just responded nonchalantly, huh? I never thought childcare would be this tough. Hey, could you watch him this weekend? I really need to catch up on some housework. During the week, I couldn't take my eyes off Tom, and just managing the day's chores was all I could handle. It's been half a year since I moved into this house after getting married. And yet, there are still unpacked boxes. If Ben could watch him, I could focus on that. But Ben's response was shocking. Huh? Why should I? What? But you're Tom's. Huh? Just because you and Tom aren't blood related, you're going to shirk your childcare duties? I was speechless. Me, neglecting childcare? No one said that. I just wanted to do the chores I couldn't get to during the week and asked him to watch Tom for a day. I'm just asking you to spend a little time with him. That's ridiculous. Ben sighed heavily. You're unemployed, right? I'm the one working here. I'm supporting us, and you're talking nonsense. But you could help a little. It's your day off. That's the point. Why should I spend my day off tiring myself out with a kid? I married you for a reason, you know. What's that supposed to mean? You married me just to be a childcare provider? Ben looked like he regretted his words. He apologized, but in the end, he only played with Tom for an hour on Saturday morning. By the time I noticed, Ben had already left. Seriously, what a mess. Exhaling tiredly, I felt Tom grip my pinky finger. Mom, are you tired? You okay? Tom looked up at me with his chubby cheeks. Just a little. But I'm okay. Seeing you cheers me up. As I hugged him, saying hug, Tom let out a squeal of laughter. Taking care of the house and Tom every day is tough. I'm tired. But I've come to love Tom as my own child. That's when it happened. One day, I noticed something odd about Tom's walk and took him to the pediatrician. I was hoping it was just my overthinking. But the doctor's words were shocking. If this continues, he might lose the ability to walk. Tom might have a serious illness. As the doctor explained, my mind went blank. I wanted to consult with Ben right away, but couldn't reach him at work. Ben didn't come home until late that night, unreachable all the while. What's with all those calls, Sophia? I was at work. I couldn't deal with so many messages. This is what I get for marrying someone who doesn't work. Ben let out an exaggerated sigh. He had no idea. Tears welled up in my eyes involuntarily. Tom was at the hospital today. As I spoke with a trembling voice, Ben covered his mouth, his eyes wide in shock. What's that all about? The prognosis varies from person to person, so nothing's certain yet, but the doctor said there's a chance. He's hospitalized now for tests. Please, come with me to his next appointment. I asked him, feeling I couldn't handle it alone. Having Ben there would be a big support. Even if he's busy with work, this is an emergency. He could take a day off, right? But Ben said, I don't know about this. What? A rare disease? What are you talking about? My son can't be a failure. A failure? How can you say that? I went from sadness to shaking with anger. Ben frowned at me. It must be his mother's fault. Her bad genes. Damn it. Dumping him on me. I couldn't understand what he was saying. He wasn't worried about Tom, he was just making excuses. Damn it. I shouldn't have taken him in. Sophia, you're his mother, right? You handle it, I'm busy. He walked away to the bathroom, and I just stared at his back, stunned. I was filled with worry about what to do next and the resolve that I had to do it. From that day on, Ben started coming home late. Was it because he couldn't face reality, or just avoiding the trouble? Probably the latter. I decided not to expect anything from Ben. I had to protect Tom. Mom! Tom, good morning. I've missed you. Fortunately, thanks to Ben, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had the time. That was one thing to be grateful for. A week later, Tom was discharged from the hospital. I had Ben pick us up on the day of his discharge. He always knew how to put on a good front. Thank you so much. We'll work together as a family from now on. Please keep supporting us. To think a father who didn't even know his son's condition and was running from reality could say such things. I thanked everyone again and got into the car with Tom and Ben. After discharge, Tom was forced to live in a wheelchair. Seeing him bored every day, unable to run around, was heart-wrenching. Ben still came home late as usual. That's it. To cheer Tom up, I gave him a drawing set. I used to love drawing, and I was pretty good at it. Wow. Tom, you're great at drawing too. Really? Like Mom? Pleased to be praised, or maybe happy to be doing something I liked, Tom's eyes sparkled as he got lost in his drawing. In the blink of an eye, 4 years passed, and Tom turned 7. Life in a wheelchair seemed hard, but he appeared to be enjoying school, which was a relief. I tried to have conversations with Ben several times, but it seemed like he was avoiding them, and we couldn't talk it out. As I agonized over what to do, suddenly Ben's infidelity came to light. It was an unexpected message from a friend that broke the news. Sorry to bring this up so suddenly, but I saw your husband coming out of a motel with a young woman. Along with the message, she sent a few photos. Come to think of it, Ben hadn't come home since yesterday. I hadn't thought much of it, assuming he might have been on a business trip. As I continued to exchange messages with my friend, I could tell she was being really careful with her words. Soon after, she called me. Sophia, are you okay? Do you want me to come over? She sounded worried. Of course, she would be. She must have struggled with whether to tell me or not. But I wasn't as shocked as I felt I should be. In fact, I had been suspicious of Ben for a while now. He wasn't usually at a job that required lots of overtime. But recently he'd been coming home late into the night, sometimes not until the morning. And even though we slept in separate rooms, I'd heard him on the phone late at night, sounding happy. I'm fine, actually. This just clears things up for me. With this evidence, I could probably get an advantage in a divorce. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Thanks. After hanging up, I was suddenly overwhelmed with despair. It's one thing to suspect, but having it confirmed feels completely different. A dark feeling swirled in my chest. More than being upset about the infidelity itself, I was shocked that while I was struggling and worrying about Tom, crying over his condition, Ben was out enjoying himself with someone else. Thinking about it brought a different kind of tear to my eyes. Tom was very dear and beloved to me, but with that came an endless sense of responsibility and pressure. I tried not to let the strain show. But to think this was the outcome felt like a total betrayal. What should I do now? Pretend I don't know and keep living like this? Or confront him about the affair and get a divorce? Which option would be better for Tom? The more I thought about it, the more overwhelmed I became, and tears started to flow. I was so blurred by tears that I didn't notice Tom had come into the room. Mom, are you crying? Oh. Tom, it's just... Did Dad do something to you? Why would you think that? I made sure never to badmouth Ben in front of Tom, avoiding any negative talk about him. Because Dad doesn't like me, right? So I thought maybe he did something to you. I didn't want to tell you, but I saw Dad on a date with another woman. They looked happy. I saw them once. Tom said this, looking down. I hugged him tightly. He had been carrying this thought alone. This wasn't just my problem anymore. I had to face it. Do you like Dad, Tom? After a moment of hesitation, he answered timidly. I like you, Mom. I love you too, Tom. From that moment, I began to take steps towards divorce. I hired a detective agency to investigate the affair and gathered evidence to strengthen my case. Everything was prepared smoothly. Now, I just had to wait for the day Ben came back to have our final confrontation. It seemed he had been home a few times, but I had successfully avoided him. His belongings and bank books were still in the house, so he would have to come back eventually. That would be the time to talk. I was resolved. But sometimes, I waver in a fleeting moment. Is this really the right thing to do? I have no love left for Ben. I'm certain that I won't regret divorcing him. However, when I think of Tom, doubts arise. Tom and I are not related by blood. And that fact gnaws at me. I plan to take custody after the divorce, and I don't think Ben would object. But still, is it better for Tom to have a father, even one like Ben, in his life? Ben often flees the house, and now, he hasn't been home for many days. As long as Ben says nothing, there won't be a divorce. If we both remain silent, this life will continue. At least I won't have to worry about money. That's a great thing. That thought crossed my mind. Mom. Perhaps sensing my hesitation, Tom gripped my hand tightly. It's okay, Mom. I'm here with you. Despite being only 7, his reassuring words made me smile. That's right. Mom will do her best. Will you join me? Yes. 2 days later, in the dead of night, Ben returned home temporarily. We need to talk. The next day, when Ben finally woke up around noon, I started. Huh? Talk about what? Let me guess, it's gonna be something troublesome, right? I just got back and you're already on my case. Ben yawned loudly. I exhaled and looked him squarely in the eyes. I'll just come right out and say it. You're cheating, aren't you? Ben's eyes widened in shock, but after a moment of thought and massaging his brow, he smirked. Finally caught on, huh? Yeah, I've been pretty free with my affections. So, you admit it? Yeah, looks like you're planning to divorce me, right? If you've got the papers, just give them here. I'll sign them quickly. I didn't expect him to cling, but I certainly didn't expect such a smooth acceptance either. I was taken aback as Ben smiled even wider. You thought I'd be more upset, huh? Well, I certainly didn't expect you to admit it so readily. Yeah, well, I've got other prospects now. Is it because of the CEO's daughter? Wow, you've done your homework, Sophia. Ben feigned surprise and clapped his hands dramatically. Yeah, that's right. I met her through work. She's a real heiress, and said she'd pay to be with me. He seemed to be trying to escape. But I held back from pressing further. That's nice for you. Makes things easier for me too. But I have one thing I need to confirm. I have something to tell you too. Ben strode over to me with a scornful smile. Take good care of the sick kid, will ya? Huh? He's attached to you, so make him happy. I mean, that's the least you can do, right? In return, I'll focus on my new family. If I have a son with Sally, he'll be the future CEO. Essentially, Ben was planning to have a child with Sally, the CEO's daughter. Sure, that would secure a safe future. Such a pathetic, dependent strategy. Just then, the door burst open, and in came Tom. Moving skillfully in his wheelchair, he approached Ben. And then, incredibly, he stood up and shouted. Mom, let's start our counterattack. Ben was stunned, his mouth agape. Tom, weren't you unable to walk? Why are you standing? I worked hard. Indeed, Tom, once thought to never walk again, had diligently worked on his rehabilitation and could now take a few steps on his own. Well, that's good, isn't it? Ben said, trying to sound tough. Yes, it is. Thanks to you, he's been growing a lot. He even helped me with the divorce preparations. You didn't have to tell the kid that. Ben retorted, surprisingly wanting to impress in front of the child. He was slightly shaken. A great negative example, you are. Fine, I have the CEO's daughter with me. You and your failed family can settle for less. By the way, which CEO's daughter is Sally? Ben chuckled. Prepare to be shocked. Sally is the daughter of a construction CEO. A construction is one of the biggest companies around here. His pride in dating the CEO's daughter was understandable. But Ben was greatly mistaken about one key fact. Unaware. He bragged confidently. A construction. That's amazing. I'm so surprised. Right? Ben nodded. I smiled and said, I'm sorry, I didn't realize your thinking was like that, Ben. Huh? Confused, Ben asked what I meant. I mean, you see same-sex, not opposite sex, as your romantic interest. What? What are you talking about? Sally is a cute girl. Strange, because a construction CEO doesn't have a daughter. That's impossible. You're lying. Just wait and listen. Ben, trying to act tough but clearly panicking, took out his phone. Shaking, and called someone. Sally. He even switched the call to speakerphone. Now, the entire conversation is out in the open. Hey, Sally. Listen. I just heard something unbelievable. Sorry for asking this weird question, but you're a girl, right? Ben asked nervously. To which Sally casually replied. Oops, you finally found out. What? Ben's face was drained of color. He's ashen-faced. That can't be. But that time, there wasn't, you know. He was probably referring to the male symbol. Despite having a physical relationship, he couldn't believe she was a man. Sally answered calmly. Of course, I've already had surgery. I'm a girl in body and soul. Sally wasn't bothered by being exposed as a former man. Meanwhile, Ben was shocked. No way, Sally was a man. Hey, Ben, that's rude. I'm a girl at heart and soul. Shut up. Nonsense. You're a real man. Ben yelled at the phone. The living room fell silent. I felt a bit sorry for Sally on the other end of the phone, but soon realized it wasn't necessary. What? Ben, that's unbelievable. You said you loved me. You big liar. Forget about introducing you to my dad, and the headhunting offer is off the table. Goodbye. Wait, Sally. That's not what I... Sally hung up abruptly. Ben knelt, stunned. He had been expecting a rosy future with the CEO's daughter, only to find out she was the CEO's son. And due to his careless words, they broke up. Plus, as a married man who had cheated, Ben still had responsibilities to face. That's a shame, but it's your fault, Ben. She was a girl in her heart and soul. That's impossible. Regardless of now, if she was originally a man, she's a man. Oh, disgusting. I can't believe I was with someone like that. How you feel doesn't matter to me. What's important is, how are you going to pay the alimony? Ben whispered oh, and looked around helplessly. Sally, his lifeline, had just dumped him. Despite it being winter, sweat beaded on Ben's forehead and trickled down his cheek. Don't worry, I won't make you cry. But you'll have to pay child support properly. But I don't have any savings. I spent almost everything on Sally. What does that have to do with child support? Ben furrowed his brows, looking distressed. He remained seated, not trying to stand up. But then, as if struck by an idea, he exclaimed. Ongoing support would be better than a lump sum payment, right? What? I glared, and Ben looked up at me pleadingly. You're kind-hearted, Sophia. You were planning to take Tom even if we divorced, right? But think about it. You're unemployed and have no savings. Life isn't that easy. So what are you suggesting? Let's start over. Ben nodded seriously, as if it was the only option. That way, we can continue living as before, right? It's a win-win. Look, let's just call it even this time. I see. Can you keep your jokes just to your face? What? I asked Ben, who was frozen with a strained smile. I pointed my finger at him and continued. First of all, what do you mean by we're both to blame? Why am I being accused? You're the one who cheated and squandered our savings, not me. Don't just brush this off. But you're just a housewife with no significant qualifications, right? You won't find a job easily. It's better to start over with me. Don't worry about me. I've already found a job. What? Ben looked stunned. I said, stroking Tom's head. Thanks to Tom. What do you mean? My drawing videos are really popular. Tom said, showing his tablet to Ben with enthusiasm. On the screen were a young child's hands and a voice that was clumsy yet pleasant to hear. Along with warm, heartfelt drawings. Tom had started drawing when his illness was discovered at 3, preventing him from physical play. Out of concern, I suggested drawing, something I was passionate about in my childhood and was often praised for. Tom turned out to be even more talented than me. It wasn't just that he was good at drawing. His work had a unique style and flavor. And most importantly, he looked truly happy while drawing. Wanting to share this joy with others, I casually filmed it and posted it on social media with his face hidden. A celebrity noticed and shared Tom's drawing video, leading to its rapid spread. We even started earning ad revenue. My editing skills, initially just a hobby, improved as I uploaded videos daily. And now I can take on other people's video editing jobs. Tom's drawing videos are just a hobby, so if he ever wants to stop, we'll stop. But I plan to continue studying and working on editing. More jobs should come with time. Anyway, I don't need your concern. Why didn't you tell me Tom was earning that much? If I knew, I would have. I knew you'd get greedy and push Tom too hard. I didn't want that. Ben seemed hit by the truth. He clenched his back teeth, glaring at me resentfully. Besides, I spoke with my parents, and they're supporting us. I don't need your help, Ben. I have plenty of people I can rely on. But... Ben stood up shakily and grabbed Tom's shoulder. Tom, you want to live with your dad, right? The real family is with your dad, right? Tom stared at Ben, then shook his head and gently removed Ben's hand from his shoulder. I'm fine with just Mom. She's always been there to help me. When I was scared, upset, or happy, Mom was always there to listen. But Tom, we're blood related. We're the real family. But you ran away when I needed you. How can you call yourself a father? Faced with Tom's direct gaze, Ben recoils. Tom, but I care about you too. Stop it already. I'm already in elementary school. I don't even call you Dad anymore. I call Mom Mom. You didn't even know that, and you're claiming to be a father? But, Tom, you should have just stayed with Sally. Even if she's a man, it's rare to find someone who likes you. Ben had no comeback to Tom's blunt rejection. He finally seemed to give up, shoulders drooping in defeat. I knew if I showed any weakness, he'd try to gain sympathy, so Tom and I firmly refused and left the house. Then, please handle the rest through the lawyer, were my last words to Ben, who offered no response. Ben, learning that Tom was earning money, didn't back down easily and refused to divorce. Tom is my precious son. We share blood. Why should we live apart? That's absurd. Despite his previous lack of interest, he desperately tried to claim custody. Surprisingly, it was my in-laws who persuaded him. Ben, we heard everything from Tom. You hardly cared for him, left everything to Sophia, and were off cheating? How dare you claim any rights now? Exactly. Raising a child isn't easy. You shirked your responsibility onto Sophia. Now you scramble at the last minute? It's disgraceful. I was wrong about them. I thought they resented Tom. But they had been tirelessly caring for him. Tom even said, I'd like to see Grandpa and Grandma after the divorce. Thanks to their repeated persuasions, Ben finally agreed to the divorce. Of course, I demanded child support. Although it seemed like there were no savings, it was discovered that Ben had secretly stashed away money in an account. Thankfully, I was able to receive child support from there. My in-laws promised to take responsibility for supervising Ben. Interestingly, Sally later reported Ben to the CEO of a construction, and Ben became a target at the company. He found it difficult to stay and ended up resigning. Now, he's just getting by with part-time jobs. Tom and I are living happily together. His love for drawing is still very much alive. His cheerful demeanor while drawing is truly adorable. He's continuing with his rehabilitation. It's slow, but his legs are steadily improving. I make sure not to push him too hard, supporting him in his efforts. As for my video editing work, my dreams have actually changed since then. I've enrolled in a school to become a physical therapist. The motive is simple. The therapists who supported Tom in his efforts looked so admirable, and I found myself aspiring to be like them. I dream of helping children like Tom someday. Recently, people have been saying Tom and I look alike, even though we're not blood related. Tom says shyly, which I find so endearing. As his mother, I vow to support him until he's fully grown, though the thought of that day is bittersweet and fills me with mixed emotions.